Welcome to Healing Step to Wellness. I'm Dr. J,
I'm May.
your trusted guide to whole person health, one step
And one bite
at a time.
Okay, so who should start? I'll let you start, Dr. J.
Because I'm not going to talk much, huh? Today
Oh,
we're
okay.
excited to welcome Tiffany Olson, the project manager from Mayo Clinic, and a very active community volunteer who is deeply engaged in organization that support wellness, health wellness in the community. Welcome, Tiffany.
Yeah, Tiffany. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, welcome. Well, Tiffany, I better give the mic to you. So go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Like you said, my name is Tiffany Olson. I am a project manager at Mayo. I work for the radiology IT department. I have been with Mayo. My anniversary is coming up on 25 years here, but I did also go to X-ray school here. So I'm 27 years in come August of being at the Mayo Clinic. I've held a couple different jobs there. Like I said, I went for X-ray school. Did that for a lot of years, switched over to our systems analyst side. And then now I'm currently in the project side. So what we do is kind of bring in some post-processing applications. A lot of the CTs, MRs, all those different things have a need for additional analysis. And that's the projects that I typically lead. As far as community involvement, I've been with Elder Network for, well, my daughter's 17 and we started when she was about 3 or 4 in the friendly visiting program. What Elder Network does is help our aging population with things like loneliness, depression, some memory care things, transportation, that we even have a technology thing so they can connect via, an iPad to family that's far away. Initially I did friendly visiting. I'm currently not paired with anyone now, but we did that for many, many years. Then I got involved with our board. And I'm sitting currently as the president of that. And then I also participate in our annual gala as the gala chair. Where I connected with May and Dr. Lai was in the SBR group, and then joined with Lotus Health Foundation to be the project manager for their symposium and gala that's coming up. So I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a great opportunity to kind of marry several different nonprofits in Rochester that benefit the community.
Yes, 27 years. I actually started my fellowship at Mayo in October 1999.
Okay, you had that year
years.
right.
So I am, in theory, 3 months ahead of you.
That's right. That's right. Yes. So we're here pretty much at the same time, moving to Rochester. So, what is a typical day look like as a project manager at Mayo or your daily life?
Well, when COVID happened, we all got sent home. So I work remote. But that gives me the opportunity then to work on enterprise projects across, Arizona, Florida, Rochester, and the health sites. Oftentimes the solutions we implement, meet the needs of many locations. So what it starts in is basic project management, where we initiate something that's asked of by the proponents, plan out how that looks, and then execute to put that new application in, as well as kind of watch it and make sure that it works. With radiology, there's the imaging component, there's the post-processing component, and then there's also the reporting. So it's making all those things be friendly and marry up. And then it, nicely translates into life where I can, well, my family will tell you that it's terrible to have a project manager at home because I'm organizing the ins and outs of everything that they're doing and making sure the checklists are checked and all those different pieces.
Do they have the wireless tracker under their skin?
Do they what?
Wireless tracker.
Under their
Everybody
skin.
has a GPS.
Yeah. I did get Jarella an iPhone this year for Christmas. I'm like, tell me what your heart rate is. Tell me what
That's very detailed.
He thought it was a gift. Didn't realize didn't realize there was a tracker.
Yeah.
It's a health tracking, but that's a good intention. That's a good intention. So I do have a question for you, Tiffany. So can you you kind of it's pretty quick that when you introduce yourself from the X-ray tech into the project management. So what took you transition to a more of a management office setting type of a function?
A little bit of it was my daughter was getting older. So initially when I was, shooting x-rays, I liked the evenings. I really enjoyed that kind of 2 to midnight, time frame. Working at St. Mary's for all of that, in the ER, and a little bit at Methodist if I did work days. Absolutely the best job. Like the patient care aspect is fantastic. Seeing people, kind of at their worst, but helping them, find a path to whatever they broke or whatever they hurt, and looking into their body and being like, here's how we can fix it. And now, passing you on to the professionals. Where I switched over to being on the systems analyst piece was I liked that I was a lead in X-ray, but there was only so far I could, fix a case, or because oftentimes, like if something wasn't, marrying up into their patient record or whatever, you could get it so far, but then you had to call into the next group. So that's our radiology systems analyst. They can kind of dive in from an administrative perspective, and fix the case, one step further. So when that spot became open, I applied for that, and that too was an awesome job. Like it gave me that element of the ER still, because if there was an outage, it was all hands on deck. But it also included call and some non-regular hours. So then as Jerai got older and, needed mom at home in the evenings because she was in school in the day, it just was a family kind of transitioning thing. The systems analyst was awesome. And we did a little bit of like project implementation. And that's kind of where I grabbed onto that and was like, hey, I want to take this one step further and be able to know like why we brought this in, or why it's important to the practice, or how this benefits the patient from a different perspective.
So this project management position actually leads you to even the bigger world that,
Yes.
Can you tell us more about your project management involvement right now?
Sure.
Your
So,
profession.
all day that's solely my job. There is a group that governs what the project managers do. It's PMI, Project Management Institution. And that's at a global level, which is interesting because you can connect with people, all across the world doing like-minded things. And then they help with different, there's healthcare project managers, there's construction, there's, just about everything you can add an element of project management. Party planning, that's in essence what it is. Those that are, planning weddings every day is taking it from, hey, I want to get married to, here's your day. Then locally, we have a project management chapter. So that's the Rochester, La Crosse area. And actually yesterday, it was a full day of professional development training. So there was about 120 of us together out at Wood Lake on the south end of town, meeting with different educations and kind of growing in that. There's also a certificate around it. So like I hold my project management professional certificate, which allows you then to kind of move into, say, a senior role or kind of up that path. From a project management perspective, there's programs, right? So in radiology, our reporting program, that's owned by somebody, but then below it, like there's all these sub projects and pieces. So if you think about it from like the Lotus Health Foundation symposium, the symposium is maybe the program, but then the volunteers are a sub project, the registration is a sub project, and kind of keeping all of those pieces aware of one another, but moving forward and answering the task items. Even that with, in the elder network world, right? Like we have elder network program, but then we've got dementia care or caregiver support or transportation and all of those things. Like I may be one person that I need a ride to the clinic, but I also have a family member that needs a little bit of time off from being my caregiver. So I want to be involved in the companion program so that they can take that break. Or, yes, I've got memory care issues and my family needs to learn how to support me as some of those things are aging. So it's kind of keeping all of those pieces together or separate as they need to be.
So what do you enjoy the most about your job?
Tell people what to do.
And that's kind of the misconception, right? Is that I'm here just to be the boss, when in the scheme of things, I'd like to kind of approach it as that servant leadership, where I'm going to keep everything in one pile so that you can come here and ask the questions. And then whatever I can do to help you get those pieces done. So that's kind of the joke, right? Is that I'm just the secretary that schedules the meetings, but I'm also, kind of the point person.
Oh, yeah.
So that, anyone can come in and ask what's needed, and then I can connect you with the person that can, do the work to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone's interested in following your footsteps, what type of qualification or personality traits or training they need?
So, there's a couple ways, right? You can go the way that I went, in that I have my education in radiology, and I hold a bachelor's and a master's in healthcare administration. That benefits, right, to the project management piece, in that education, as well as finishing out some of the courses, are requirements to getting your project management certificate. But then there's definitely, you could go just to school. Like I have a cousin that he's up in Bemidji, and he's going to school for construction management. So he, will come out with a 4-year degree dedicated in project management for construction. And then he can take that and, explore what, I think he's going into kind of the plumbing field. But so there's different paths. We have different levels of project managers. Like there's a project management assistant, where you can spend time kind of helping a PM do what they do, and then from there gain those hours and grow and go up the ladder that way. So that's the nice part, is that I think you can transition different things. Like I know there was a teacher that joined one of our PM orientations, and she's like, well, I've been organizing my classroom every day, all day, which is true, right? Like each project plan is your way of educating that student throughout the year, and you're checking in, and you're making updates, and you're growing their, in their education. And that can translate into exactly what a project manager does in a different field.
That's right. And then the personality wise.
Personality. And I think that there's multiple, like, we were just talking, one of my coworkers, he's very much an introvert, but he's perfect at keeping everything going. He doesn't ask a lot of questions, or get into the nitty-gritty of knowing people per se, but he does like touch base and with compassion show, like, I'm here to help you and move your things along. I like to add that element of kind of chit chat. I think once you know people, they want to operate in a more excited way to be around you, right? So if I know that your kid has a band concert next week, that personal touch, I think, makes you more motivated to check in with me, or get whatever I've asked you to do done, because I'm knowing that you have that work-life balance. And that's I think a big benefit that came out of COVID, is people realized work is not the most fun thing, and I need to have those exciting other pieces in life to kind of keep things balanced. That's also for our gala this year for Elder Network, we're going on the element of play. So our speaker, Dr. Leitner, she worked at Mayo for a lot of years, and then in retiring has worked with Resounding Voices, which is a group in town here that uses music to support kind of some memory care issues. So her being the gala speaker coming up here in September, is she's going to talk just on play. Like as a kid, it's easy, right? That's all you want to do. You don't want to be pulled away to go to school type of thing. But then as you grow older, you think like, I don't get to play anymore. But play could be very different, right? Like go for a walk. That's an element of play. Play dominoes. That's interacting with people. Even the example of, like, maybe I don't want to build Legos, but I want to sort the Legos. Like that's calming to me, because that's, doing the colors and all of those things are that element of play. So I think that's kind of another nice thing, is reminding people that yes, maybe there's a task at hand, but it could be fun.
So Tiffany, how I see your career path and also what you involved with the nonprofit elder network that you so far have involved with elder like about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and I also learned about something from you regarding your project management chapter. As you are at the leadership role now, you also take the opportunity or give the chapter member the opportunity to exercise their skill set or say maybe practice, and you marriage your involvement in the community with the pool of a talent right here to help them. Can you share something about that with our audience?
So that is a nice part about PMI Global is that's one of their driving things is community, so how do you give back? In fact, some of the credits that you have to like submit is just that. How did you get involved? And that's kind of the nice part is that support of the nonprofit, support of a sustainable environment is their initiative this year. How do the things you do help the environment and not hurt the environment? So it's those pieces that are provided to us from a top down level. The other thing is helping, like you say, our board for PMI is we've got elected groups, but then we also have directors that sit under each person. So you can kind of learn the job, right? So if it's scary to come in and be the director or the VP of operations or the VP of finance, that seems intimidating. Well, you can go ahead and be a director of finance and kind of learn the ropes and grow from there. So that provides each of those pieces. I think it's the same kind of in any board. People are excited to join and be a part of something and, support the group they love, but maybe intimidated. So come in as just, that spectator role initially, and then grow into kind of a leader. And that I think is how with Elder Network, like I just wanted to be a part of something in my community. I grew up in a very small town of 1,200. But my dad was on the fire department and my mom was involved in the church and, they were contributing in ways to the community. So then when I moved to Rochester and, it's 100,000 people instead of 1,200, I was like, I had a young daughter that I didn't necessarily want to leave behind. You could go work in a soup kitchen or do some of those things, but they're not eager to have a toddler come chasing around and helping. So then I connected with Elder Network and they're like, yeah, we can pair you with somebody and do this friendly visiting. And that may be something they're looking for, is to have a little person, in that spunk that they have, right, in their life. So that worked out. We were with somebody for many, many years. And he honestly looked almost like my dad.
Aww.
So it was an easy transition for Jariah. She had her Rochester grandpa and her, back in Dassel grandpa, and they both kind of look the same and we're able to, interact and do things that way. The nice part was because, what 3-4-year-old wants to eat anything mom makes, the person we were paired with, that's kind of what we did. I would make supper once a week. We'd bring it over to him because he was wheelchair bound. And every time he was like, this is so good, or I haven't had this in a long time. Because, instead of what's convenient, having, meals dropped off or something like that isn't necessarily anything fun for people. So I got to cook and he got to eat and we all were happy. And I
How wonderful.
left the little 4-year-old and, she ate maybe a little bit, but kids like to turn up their nose at that age. And he always was like, oh, this is so good. Thank you.
So there are many, many community service organizations in town. And how did you pick Elder Network? Is it just by chance, or there's mission or their service or anything that drawn you there?
I did look at a few. Like I said, there was maybe that limiting factor of what could include my daughter also.
Right.
But I, growing up in my small town, like I had a grandparent down the road one way and a grandparent down the road the other way. We all, lived in close proximity. So it was nice in that sense too. Like I was, kind of going back to childhood where me and my friends would be out riding bike and just swing in and, my grandpa was an amazing baker. So there was always something. So we'd swing in and Grandpa Norris would have, something that he had just made. And then we could sit and visit with him and grandma and off we'd go again. So that I think is that aging population is always kind of near and dear to my heart. And then as I've gotten older, like I have, my one grandma passed away of dementia, so it was those pieces where I could kind of educate myself through Elder Network to understand what personally was, happening to the family. By the time she passed, I was somebody nice that was coming to visit, but she had no clue who I was, because in her mind, my mom still had kids that were, 8 or 12, not in their 40s. So it was different. And she was, friendly and nice blonde girl that came to visit, but she didn't really necessarily know who I was or how it was even possible that I was bringing kids of my own with me. And that, I went through Dementia Friends with Elder Network. It's kind of an education session on memory care and how to support your loved ones that are slowly kind of forgetting who you are. So those pieces were helpful in knowing my own personal stuff. I think everyone in some capacity has a loved one that has memory issues of some sort, as we all seem to be living longer. So that I think is an important piece too, that kind of drew me to them.
Beside this, I remember you also share your passion in supporting several nonprofit activities that we have hosted last year, especially the cancer prevention project that sponsored by Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM. This is a Beat the Breast Cancer Rally. First time we host in Rochester. So with that, you express your interest that's in your heart. You probably tell us about what is the connection between.
Well, every radiology person is all about breast cancer awareness, right? I mean, we have a whole mammography department that supports women and doing their annual, checkups and care to prevent that. And I think that's one of those cancers that, you can track and you can follow and prevent if possible, or at least have early detection. So that's kind of nice there. One of my grandpas passed away from several different versions of cancer, started with prostate, ended up bone. And it's just one of those things, right? Cancer is a tough diagnosis, and how do you get ahead of it, or how do you decide how you want to treat it? I mean, I fully support anybody that says, no, I just want to live out what's left of my life and not be in a hospital getting treatment all day long. And then there's others that are like, I want to be aggressive and do whatever I can to stop this and then go back to life. So it's that education that I think provides people their options. And then they can go from there and expand in the direction they want to go.
And you also mentioned about the Elder Network and your upcoming gala is focused on your guest speaker is specific about the Alzheimer brain function and capacity. So now I think this is the first time when we work together, you as our project manager for our upcoming Community Wellness Symposium and Gala. It's our 8th annual event and going to happen very soon, April 8 and 9. So I want to take, Tiffany, I want to take you to this perspective. Like you have from your work experience, your involvement in a community, and that is the image about cancer, the Alzheimer, and also the aging, very fragile elderly folks, loneliness. And we started last year because your involvement with our annual conference, Community Wellness Symposium, involved with the 6 health pillar. By the way, our conference is start very soon, and it's a great conference, April 9 and 10. So with the 6 health pillar, we emphasize a lot on nutrition. What is your take on this?
Well, I think that's the missing piece in healthcare, period, right? Is that you can go to the doctor and they can do a basic physical, or, send you one direction or the other to follow up on different things. But in America, or, they're kind of bad at understanding that there's a different approach. Like I've always, well, my sister makes fun of me because I'm a big fan of the oils and all the things. And she's like, well, you work in modern medicine and now you're telling me about how these oils can fix a headache or help with sleep or what. I'm like, but why not? It does work that way, right? Like, and when we had, so my 17-year-old, my sister's got an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they lived with me initially, like when the kids were younger. Like, well, why give them Tylenol if I can just rub a little peppermint on their head and tell them they feel better, or, a little lavender on their feet and send them to bed instead of melatonin. And I think that's kind of the missing piece, that overall people approach it either as it's straight medicine or it's straight holistic, and there can't be those things together. And nutrition, right, is where you can start. If you do the right food, you maybe don't have to do something else from a vitamin perspective to get what you're missing, or fix what you did wrong or something like that. And that's the same, I think, with some of your other pillars, right? Stress management, that leans into, avoiding loneliness, or, having good sleep, or, those different pieces. And that's where I see kind of the synergy between Elder Network's mission and Lotus Health's mission, in that, if we can make you feel well in the beginning, or help with, any sort of loneliness or those components in the, from the whole body perspective, then we don't have to come back and do all these extra tests, or, add supplements if you don't need, or some of those different pieces. It all kind of plays a part in different parts of, your life, but why not, start from the bottom, like Dr. Lai has told us many a times in SBR, that, that let's look at all of you, not just the one part of you, so that we can fix what's happening, or avoid something that needs to be fixed on the road.
Oh, Tiffany, before Dr. J asks a question, and I want to ask one thing, and then you can probably better elaborate that, to explain to the audience. What is the SBR? You have to say that.
Oh,
more than once. So
Small Business Referral Group.
Okay.
So it's we meet weekly, and kind of connect on a business level, and it's similar to ultimately it's for the smaller businesses in the community. They've got a few different chapters in Rochester. I think there's one in Owatonna. I believe they started one up in Bemidji or Brainerd. I can't remember.
Right there.
So it's a group of guys in Rochester that started this group to support the small businesses and make those connections. And I joined, as an Elder Network representative, and Dr. Lai for, Rochester Clinic. And I think that's where we kind of gravitated, right? Like here we are helping our community, as well as like Chad, who will be at the symposium, helping from a physical perspective.
Right.
And same with like my chiropractor. I keep telling him he needs to come and join, because he's very into that, like food as medicine perspective. I'm like, well, I've got the right people to connect with for you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So how many community organizations are you involved, and how do you organize your own time, and also integrate all those organizations together to help the community?
Well, Jarrell tells me I'm terrible at it, that I'm involved in too many things. But I think that's nice, right? Like that's where you get that social impact, is that you're meeting different people in different situations.
Right.
I help with my church women's board. Sit on the board for project management, helping you guys with Lotus Health, working with Elder Network on the board, and then also the gala. All those things kind of ebb and flow, though. Your symposium's in April, so there's the prep for that. The Elder Network gala is in September, so that kind of is on a different timeline. The women's board, we meet quarterly, but then I've kind of expanded into some of our Sunday morning coffee between church services. But all of those things just let you interact with people. And I think the way that it all works together is I'm kind of wearing the same hat in each of the groups. It all has that element of, the project management or organizing the agenda or calling the people to the table so that they can contribute what they benefit to their, the different groups. But it is kind of that social component too, in that, primarily the women's board at church is an older population. So we've then talked about, like, you can go to this memory care thing, or you can go to, join Elder Network if you need somebody to help get you from point A to point B and transportation like that. Joanne and I do a little bit with Family Services of Rochester, also in their Meals on Wheels program. That too is something kind of near and dear to my heart, because as my grandma was aging, before she went to memory care facility, she was back home where a lot of us were not. So we utilized Meals on Wheels as that daily check-in. We knew that somebody saw her every single day, and that she had, something to eat. Now, if she chose to eat it or not, that was a different story, but somebody saw her every day. And then my kind of way to give back is I live here, and let's do that same thing for, similar people, but in my community.
And I have to say that your impact, it's more than your direct impact in the community, kind of working around several groups, because of your connection at the SBRG group. You also educate us, and especially Dr. J, because he goes to the meeting 99.9% of the time. I only get there when he is not available, so I can say whatever I want. That's the fun part. So, but I see you like somehow so interesting. You like a bumblebee appear in my head in our garden. It's just a kind of spreading out a messaging in different area. And then you make it, every piece is connected. But you also allow Dr. J to give some advice to his patient at the retired age. Say a lot of it, right? Dr. J, a lot of patient.
Right. Some patients that do need care at home, just like you mentioned, like Meals on Wheels, or someone just go there to visit them, to be a companion, not necessarily to do a service, just be there with them. They'll be so happy to have that. And I have patients who just retire and not knowing what to do. They try to find a sense of purpose and things to do. At that time, I say, hey, why not volunteer? So in both ends, I always use a lot of alternate work or family services type of information to my patients. And and so when you're doing that, I really want to know, when you reflect on your work, both professionally and in the community, what inspired you to keep doing this?
It's enjoyable, Dr. J.
Exactly, right?
Give a smile.
And that's the thing. I think you see the impact, right? You see that somebody isn't lonely, or you see that somebody is maybe worried inside because they're like, oh, I know that I physically should not go out and shovel my sidewalk, but I have to. And so it's some of those things that I think these groups contribute and kind of alleviate some of that, or at least give them a break, right? Like if you're not interested in having someone come into your home and do a weekly friendly visit, but you are interested in going to like our memory cafe sessions, a lot of times it's just a group of 10, 5, whoever shows up, and they play a game or they do a craft, or they just get to kind of forget what day-to-day is. The other thing that I didn't realize, but now have figured out, is just the way that Jiraiya interacts with the older population. Like I said, the person that we were first paired with was wheelchair bound, and she still, 13, 14 years later, the way that I watch her like open doors for people or help with walkers or different things. Like she just inherently will be like, oh, nope, I gotta go and just double check on this person because it looks like, getting up on that curb might be difficult, or how do you get your wheelchair in a door and hold the door open type of thing. So that was kind of a lucky accident that I didn't realize she was just growing in that skill. And she's mentioned too, now that she's older, and looking for potential work, is that maybe I do go work at a nursing home, or maybe, how do I get into kind of that additional help in my community? And I think that was something that came from her shadowing some of these different things that I've, done over the years.
That's so rich.
We have a lot of impacts on our kids we didn't realize. Just the small things in life, or even our habits as a family, anything that will impact them, and that's a very different.
And I do, and I'm so glad you point that out, because I just was going to compliment that how beautiful it is, the mother and daughter team. And this is a hands-on experience for our next younger generation. So besides, it's more than the phone, right? That allow them to connect with the people. A lot of the time, the current younger generation, they don't know how to interact with the people. And that is from inside. It's not something you can buy for them immediately.
Yeah, no, and it's fun to watch. One of the other people I was paired with more recently, she was a teacher previously, and retired, and had been a retired teacher for quite some time. Well, her and I being paired up, then my sister her twins are almost 8. But when they were born, I was like, do you mind if the twins come along? Like, they can get pushed in the stroller, and they will, like to be a part of our walk, and grew up a little bit with her. But it was fun to watch her turn right back into a teacher. Like, she'd get down there as the girls got older and help them with different things. And it kind of sparked a spot in her mind that she hadn't, entertained in the last few years. And it just went right back into, like, I'm a kindergarten teacher and I'm helping these little people with, coloring, and then that opened different opportunities for us to go to, her and I like to go drink coffee and just visit. But if the little kids came along, then it was, let's go to the library, or, do you mind if we just go to the park and they play? And she'd be in there, like, pushing them on the swing. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. Cause it's just something different that I don't think that she would have probably participated in by choice, but by that happy accident, she was right back in there being the teacher that she was before she retired.
How beautiful. How beautiful. Yeah.
We always talk about the importance of social networking, give you support, reduce your stress, all of that. But the other thing, when we do the community work, is it builds trust, because people know you. It's not just, oh, you are someone doing this work. It's know you as a person. And that's why I'm a big supporter of learning, use this knowledge. I talk to my patients, so no matter what they say, I always say, oh, no, I know a little bit about that.
Wow, we have a lot. Thank you for guiding us to learn more about your job, learn more about the how you really be a big social the community connector. And we definitely need more time to learn more about the elder network and to connect more work. And I look forward to collaborate together more. So if people want to learn about Elder Network at any organization that you participate, how do they find that information?
Let me make sure I tell you the right email or the right.
And you can send a link to us. We can park on on this episode once we release that. Yeah,
so it's Elder Network, and we serve Rochester, Wabasha, and Winona County, a little bit in Dodge, but there's similar groups that are everywhere, and like I said, Family Services Rochester, we've got some synergy with them. We're partnering on a support in like aging and finding the right home or apartment space. So it's Elder ELDER network NETWORK.org.
Okay.
And on there, it'll take you down any of the resources. We certainly focus on helping our 55 plus and their caregivers. That's kind of the important part. Is it's not just about necessarily the person, but it's also about their support team and how do we support them in things, you know, like finding out the new diagnosis. How do I help my parent throughout whatever they're going through? But then also that, you know, we've got courses on after caregiving ends, which that's an unfortunate part in, you know, the aging population is they're closer to that stage of passing away. So now how do you help their family members after they've lost someone?
Sure.
Again, the services are, you know, there's the friendly visiting, respite, companion. That's all kind of about the person and helping them and, you know, providing different levels of visiting or in-home kind of support. We know that, you know, Mayo's and Rochester Clinic are here to take care of the medical things. We want to help and kind of take care of the loneliness in the person. But then since our conception, it started with Mary Doucette. She was a nurse in like social services, and then she started this over 30 years ago. But so now we've grown from not just that like friendly visiting component, but also transportation and technology.
Wow.
And some of those bigger education things. Now this new one partnering to help with housing. We've got Kate, who has been with us for a long time. She is a wealth of resources. You know, if you have a random weird question that you feel like, I don't know how to get an in-home haircut or something like that, she seems to be the one that can answer all of those things and navigate people through, you know, questions that didn't seem to make sense, or where they could find resources. And I think that's kind of I've learned a lot from them, is that they're very good at finding resources and pairing people. And that's, I think, something that they don't show as much. You know, I mean, it's not written in our mission that we're here to pair you up, but it certainly is what they do. And you know, that I think is where I've grown or learned a lot from them, is like, how do I pair everybody up and get them a resource? Even if I can't necessarily do it, I can, you know, find you somebody that can.
Excellent. Excellent.
Great. Wow, thank you. Let's summarize a little bit what the insights of our conversation today. It's really the personal work and computer service can reinforce each other. And your project manager skills are so powerful tools for community impact. And volunteering doesn't require your grand skills. It's really your small, consistent contribution to make a meaningful difference in the community. And strong communities can really support healthier, happier life for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you
Very
very
good.
much.
And I think that's kind of the important part, right? With people that are passionate and nonprofit, is they just want to help people. They just want to collaborate. They just want to grow together and share resources. And Jerry and I kind of had that conversation when SBR was first starting. He was like, well, we didn't know how many nonprofits to let in, because we just thought it was going to be you guys like asking us for money as a small business person. And I was like, no, we're here to say, like, how do we help? How do we expand? How do we grow? Who can we connect with? So, and he's like, it's been it's pleasant surprise, because I don't think you guys have, you know, you ask to come and participate in our things, not just, hey, give me some money.
Yeah, definitely. It's more than that. Yeah.
And that's I think what I like best about nonprofit work is everyone is just, they're always there to say, how do I help, opposed to what can you give me?
Yes, definitely. Love it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Well, Tiffany, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, okay.
This was nice.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us on Healing Step to Wellness. I'm Dr. J.
I'm May.
Guiding you toward whole person health, one step
and one bite at a time. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time. Yeah.
Bye-bye.